everyone! This is Remleiz from 40k Theories, and welcome to this new episode of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is Tactica Imperialis.
Hello everyone! Just apologies in advance, I have got baby with me at this time. I've decided that I'm taking on baby duties and podcast duties at once, which was probably the silly decision, but if you notice any jips in audio, then that's why. Sorry.
Absolute mad lass. And joining us as our guest this week, making their Podcastus debut, is probably known better to you guys as Gaijin Goombah, but for all things 40k related, they shall be known henceforth as Gimgam Glitzdakka.
Hey, what's going on?
Hello, welcome to the show.
That is an amazing name, by the way.
You know, it's funny because the Glitzdakka portion I came up with, but the whole Gimgam thing, that's been around for probably the better part of 5 years. It was a nickname that Takahata 101 of Team 4-Star actually gave me.
We know Takahata.
Yeah, that was back during the Yes Yes Love Adventure Goes days, and
oh, that's going back a few years, yeah.
It really is, yeah. But that's where that came in.
Fair enough. Right, so for those listening who may not be familiar with your work, would you like to explain what you do?
Well, for the last 10 years, give or take, I had been specialized in talking about culture and games, particularly Japan. But during COVID and a bit post-COVID, I've just wanted to explore some other things, some other hyperfixations that have kind of come my way. One of the things that had resonated with me for a long time, there was a time during The Unexpectables, which is a D&D podcast that I've been doing for probably the last 7 years. And we had a Orktober where it was set in the 40k universe. We all played as orcs. It was very goofy, very fun. And it just kind of opened me up to everything that is orcs. And something clicked in my head. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was this weird combination of goofiness in probably the most OMG take everything seriously settings as possible when it comes to science fiction and fantasy, on top of cartoony military aesthetics that are somewhere between Green Army Men, G.I. Joe, and Metal Slug. Metal Slug absolutely toward being the larger influence on me, and that's kind of what pulled me into orcs in the first place. It wasn't necessarily that I liked orcs growing up. It was more along the lines of I liked dumb, and I mean really dumb, military culture. And I hesitate to call it that because I don't want it to sound like I'm having a disservice against actual military personnel. It's just
the parody stuff.
Yeah, it's like I look at orcs and I'm like, they're an entire race of FPS protagonists. At least that's kind of the vibe that I get, and that's where I kind of go for. Yeah. So
yeah, that's fair.
It kind of went there. One day I put up on my throne list, I was like, I'm going to put some Killicans up there, because the one thing that pulled me to orcs hardest was all of the crazy mechanical stuff, particularly the walkers and robots and things like that. So
as
everything
a Speed Freaks player can relate.
Yeah. No, so everything from Killicans, Def Dreads, Mega Dreads, Mecha Dreads, Stompas, Gargants, like that's where it all really started. In fact, my first kit bash was an Invictus Warsuit that I called Invictus Wawsuit. And apparently it was
you are a proper orc player.
Yeah. It was apparently very impressive with my local game store. It's the only thing I've really kit bashed together so far, and I kind of don't want to do another one because it's like, oh no, I've peaked already.
I mean, to be fair, it's one of those of this is not a shade throw at all. It's like you almost can't consider yourself a proper orc player if you haven't kit bashed or looted something.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct.
Not a shade at any orc players who just build it out the box and go, but there is something to be said for loot the hell out of it is kind of a rite of passage.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I've had people tell me that you're not an orc player until you do a scratch build, and it's like, I don't know about that one. I've don't
been playing
know if
orcs
I've
for
got
16 years. I ain't done a scratch build.
Like, I could see it working with other models, maybe, but like from absolutely nothing, no, I don't have enough time and enough scrap to do that. So, but yeah, that's basically where it all came from. Because I put up a box of Killicans, immediately it got picked up. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is a thing. And so over time, I just slowly started to put more orc-related things up on my throne list, and people were like, oh, he's getting in a 40k, dump all the support on him. And that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, we're a passionate bunch.
To a point where I've started a second channel completely focused on orcs in orc character. I literally just released a video 40 minutes ago talking about speed freaks in a very general sense. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, it's just been a supremely big breath of fresh air, because you do something for 10 years, you're going to eventually want to do something else for a bit.
Yeah, because if I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I when Rem said that you'd been booked for the show, I was like, I know that name. Do they do game theory?
God, I can really tell how much time has passed, because it's like, people have heard of me, but now it's only like faint, which is...
Oh, that's not a diss, by the way. The fact I still remember that name tells me that it stuck with me. That's not a diss.
Oh, yeah. No. It absolutely isn't a diss. Especially now with what feels like everybody is getting called out in cancel culture and whatnot. Like, I've had a couple of cancel attempts on me, but it was all very fabricated and held no real weight. So I kind of get it, but it's like I would rather... I'd rather fade into a little bit of obscurity as something that people actually remember fondly versus, oh, it's that person that got canceled in like 2000 something or other. So it's like, it's the nature of all media, is that nothing stays popular forever. But, you know, it's like we have to keep moving on and living on. I did a video over on the main channel talking about how you have to keep moving on and living on, even if your quote-unquote arc is over. And the whole Orcs thing feels like a new arc. I mean, it's taking its time getting off the ground, but it's growing steadily. And I will tell anyone who's listening right now who wants to get into any sort of online content creation, grow slowly. Do not explode in popularity, because here's the problem. One, if you become really popular and are made into a meme, God help you, no one will take you seriously. And if you get really, really popular because of one specific thing, you're doing that one specific thing for the rest of your career, or else you're going to get very, very terrible turnover rates for your views. Grow slow. Let people become a fan of you, not the one small niche thing that you did.
Yeah, I sort of get that, because I grew very slowly, and then I started working with Remleiz and blew up. Well, in terms of, you know, a random kid at university in the late teens doing rubbish videos on an iPad type blew up. So I get that, and I had one series that really defined what I did. And I was able to keep that series up for 3 or 4 years, but nothing else got really any traction at all. But doing this podcast is sort of the post arc for me. Like, I'm sort of semi-retired almost from doing YouTube, because I've got a job, I've got a child, I've got lots of other things demanding my attention, but I keep my toe in the hobby doing Warhammer Club at my local school where I teach, and by doing this show. So I do get what you're getting at. It's hard to offer advice as someone who probably went about it and just got lucky. I struck a lucky break and I'm still here, but I do take the advice. I think you probably would be right in doing so. But sometimes if you do the grow slow tactic, sometimes you've got to get noticed. And that sometimes requires, as it did for me, working with a bigger creator to get noticed, or having a series that pops off a little bit. And there's your hook, and you use you to hook people in. Like, there's YouTubers I watch who I got into them because they were doing a thing I was interested in at the time, but actually I now watch everything they post because they're just a good creator. It comes down to really a combination of, like, yes, have good content, but also be someone that people can get behind or get on board with, and the two go together, which is why certain followings, it doesn't matter what their content is, they'll just get what they want, whereas other times it really does live and die by the content. It really does vary.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. There is always an element of luck to this.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's almost required. Like, luck is actually required, especially now. When I first got started, excuse me, when I got started back in 2012, I think that's when I got started. Anything was possible. Anyone could get big because there was no competition, not as many people on the platform, and it was all still growing upwards. Now, if I was to try and start, let me backpedal on that because I am starting a brand new channel. That's completely independent from what I've been doing.
With an established base, so it's not the same thing.
No, well, I mean, the trick is that I'm kind of going from cultural analysis with a focus in Japan to Orks. That is a jump. That is a huge jump because I'm going from something that had been kind of niche, which is now, I mean, let's be real here, like quote unquote Japan content is everywhere these days, done by a lot of different people, to the point where I'd say that it's almost oversaturated. But to jump from that to an already hyper niche of tabletop games, to another niche of Warhammer, to another niche of 40k, to another niche of Orks. It's
the
like...
funny thing is, it's weird, because we as 40k creators and 40k people have never felt more mainstream than today.
Oh, sure.
Like, I think, Rem, you've been around in the hobby a lot longer than I have, but 40k has evolved and is now way more mainstream than it used to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always been, like, a degree of, like, I wouldn't say necessarily like, really popular, but like over here, it's always been the case of like, everyone always knew about it, but...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everyone knew someone who did Warhammer, or everyone had heard of the Warhammer shop.
Yeah, growing up in Britain, like, if you grew up in Britain, like in the 90s, you knew someone who played Warhammer.
Sure. But it's like...
It was that simple, yeah.
But when it comes to stateside, that's kind of different. There is so much just generally, and this is not a flex, this is just, things are big. Like, it's harder, I think, for things that are smaller, in terms of like a niche, to get into the mainstream media over here, because it's only been very, very recent, and I mean very recent, within the last 2 or so years, that 40k has gotten any sort of mainstream attention in the States. A lot of that came from the announcement of the Amazon show that Gork and Mork help me. I don't even know if that's ever going to be a thing, given the circumstances of everything that's been going on. But it's more tricky. And considering YouTube will actually promote... YouTube does this thing where they check your IP address and they will promote your content into your country more heavily than any other. So it's
I can see the argument why it does that.
Oh yeah, it makes sense. But it's a little bit more risky. Like, if I was in the UK at all trying to do this, that would be a different thing. Like, the funny thing is that most of my mods, when it comes to my streaming presence and whatnot, they're all in England. All of them are in England. I don't know why. It just happened that way. So when I got into 40k, things just kind of took off. But it's like, it's going back to the original point I was trying to make, is that it's a harder jump, especially when I've been established for over a decade as doing something very, very different.
Yeah, I can see that.
But at the same time, it's like, I need to do something else because my content is basically plateaued at this point. Because the thing is, anyone who knows me knows me. They either like me or they don't like me or they hate me or whatever. I have a lot of haters. So it's not like I've got anything to really surprise people with the content that I make. And it's hard to diversify with it. But to just go off the deep end and try and jump into something else that is becoming more and more mainstream, specifically through a faction that not only did I fall in love with it, it's something that's keeping me away from other problems that I've had as a YouTube creator. One of the things that I've noticed is that when I make content on the Orks channel, it's very fast. Making videos is incredibly fast. And I sat down and I was like, why is that? And it's like, oh, because I don't have to research. Not really. I've had a Necrons player try to argue me that a mech gun should technically explode. And I sat down with him. I'm like, bro, an orc could have a rock that they thought was a tooth of Gork powering the mech gun, and it would not have deadly demise. I don't know what to tell you. The thing is, you cannot argue orc logic because it does not exist. And it is so, like, up in the air that there's no consistency. And one of the things that has been bothering me as a content creator is that people love to argue. God help me, people love to argue. And they will argue over the most insignificant stuff, and I'm kind of tired of that. And so one of the biggest appeals of Orcs and 40k in general is that it's more about arguing about stupid crap that doesn't matter, that we all know doesn't matter, but we argue about it anyway because it's fun, versus this isn't historically accurate, this person wasn't this. Like, I don't know if you've all seen the Yasuke discourse over the last 3 months or so when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows, but that
I've
discourse...
vaguely seen, like, edge bits of it. I've been a bit busy, but
I mean, don't dive into it. It's painful to watch. But for those of you listening, that discourse has pushed me away from wanting to talk about any sort of historical references in games, purely because of just the sheer amount of vitriol that's in it. So I feel like I've been able to kind of escape from that doing this other channel, and I'm infinitely more happy because of it.
Fair.
Well, since you're an Orc player, there's one question I do need to ask.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on the Beast Arises series?
Do you even know what the Beast Arises series is at this point?
It's basically the pseudo Horus Heresy book, isn't it?
It's a series that takes place after the Horus Heresy, but where Games Workshop actually treated the Orcs as like a legitimate, terrifying threat rather than just, comedy Cockney mushrooms.
Well, that's kind of the thing. First of all, like, I've not read it, but I've asked so many friends. I have a lot of friends that are really big in the Horus Heresy times, and they're not fanboys of the Imperium. They're very much open-minded to other things in the area. And I'm sitting here like, why aren't there Eldar? Why aren't there Orcs in the Horus Heresy? Because they were there. But anyway, no, I asked them about that book, and they said stay away from it at all costs. They do because they do some horrendous stuff.
Let me give you a few summary highlights of our favourite meme moments.
Uh-huh.
Reverse engineering a war using a psyker to blow up an Orc weird boy.
No.
Talking, like piloting a moon up to Terra, like Earth, and literally making it talk with a moving face and everything.
I could buy that.
The farm.
Say again?
The
farm. Yeah, the Orcs have a human farm where they're like farming humans.
I remember them telling me about that. I'm like, no, I don't think Orcs would care enough. I just don't.
Also, Prime Orcs, so Primarch level Orcs.
Right.
Which the only time I think I remember one being killed was when Vulcan, the unkillable Primarch, tackled it into a attack.
Oh no, he didn't die.
He didn't die.
He came back a couple of books later.
Yep.
No, I mean the Primarch. The Primarch didn't.
Yeah, he came back a couple of books later. Yeah.
Oh god.
He was disfigured, but he came back. He survived it, and Vulcan didn't.
No. Here's the thing. Orcs.
And that's just the memes.
Orcs can be made exceptionally terrifying from an Imperium or like Tau or whatever perspective, or they can be the goofy idiots from their own perspective. It's like, they're like Skaven in fantasy. Because I get people all the time that are like, Gimgam, if you were to play fantasy, which I don't plan to right now, they said, if you would play fantasy, would you play Orcs because you like Orcs in 40k? I say no. Orcs in fantasy, comparatively, are exceptionally boring. Skaven is where I would be going, because they are the closest thing to 40k Orcs.
Well,
even compared to fantasy Orcs.
Well, if you do want to play Skaven, might I suggest you keep an eye out tomorrow, as it is the Battle for Hell Crown preview. So there's been an ongoing narrative campaign with Stormcast and Skaven, and by all predictions, as usual, the bad guy faction is way more cool and popular, so most likely you're going to see most of the Skaven range get revealed tomorrow.
Oh, sure. No, I am all about Clan Scryer. Like, give me that
you're
stupid...
definitely going to enjoy it then.
Give me that stupid tech for life. It's like, yeah, Molder's kind of interesting with the weird mutations. Pestilence is just Black Plague Rat. But it's like, I just... Blow up the moon. Like, I look at that, I'm like, that is more Orky, in my opinion, and I gotta do a video on this. That is more Orky than whatever happens with fantasy Orcs, or not, with Warhammer fantasy Orcs, because it's like, people are like, oh yeah, well there's Grimgor, and it's like, yeah, all he does is kill. He has no character. It's just, I'm angry, I need a fight, and it's just, okay, cool, I guess. And it's like
some shade being thrown.
Well, I'm sorry.
We all know the best Orc was Morglum Neck Snapper. Okay.
It's like I had a friend explain it this way. The goblins have more quirk to them than the orcs do in fantasy.
Yeah, I'm actually reading a AOS Goblin novel at the moment, so I do actually follow that logic.
And it's like, that's fun. I don't hate it. It's just, people always assume that I would be playing orcs in fantasy, and it's like, no, I find them extremely boring. But yeah, no, it would be absolutely be Skaven for me. Sorry, we got off topic really hard.
It's fine.
No,
It's fine.
grand. Yeah, grand. Right, so in the news this week, let's kick things off with something not Orc related, but Blood Angels related, as Codex Blood Angels is coming out shortly along with a new Battle Force box set.
Yes, there's been several things revealed. It's not just the box set. There's been other reveals since. The box set in question is contains 10 jump pack intercessors, 10 regular intercessors, a Redemptor Dreadnought. There'll be a bunch of Blood Angel upgrades.
Brutalis.
Yes, Brutalis.
Brutalis. Sorry, I keep forgetting that's the name of the new melee Dreadnought. I'm just so stuck on Redemptor, my bad.
It's fine.
AKA the poor man's Furioso.
Yes, a poor man's Furioso. But most interesting of all is the primarification of Lamates and Asterath.
Now, my question is, who the fuck thought it was a good idea to make Lamates cross the Rubicon? Yeah, let's have the guy suffering from the Black Rage upgraded.
Because he's very useful in keeping the Death Company under control.
I know, it just seems like a waste of resources. Like, he's literally suffering from the Black Rage. He could literally just go at any moment kind of thing. It's like, that's not the kind of thing you really want to invest in.
I see the argument, but it's interesting because obviously we were talking at length about Kotiaz last week and the job that was done on him. But when they've done the Lamates and Asterath upgrades, particularly the Asterath actually, they've kept Asterath incredibly faithful to how he was before, and it really works.
I'd say the Lamates model does look absolutely beautiful. It's much better than this previous one, I feel.
Yeah, the old one suffered from old school metal Space Marine jank a little bit.
Even though it does look a bit like he's wearing a ball gag.
Yeah.
I've seen that going around.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
The ball gag, as it were.
Yep.
Oh. You know, it's funny, like, I'll be completely real with you guys. I didn't know that this box set was releasing. I just don't pay attention to Space Marines. But I recently got done doing a sponsorship with Tacticus, and they just released the first round of Blood Angels characters. And I was
seeing the mobile game, right?
Yes. And I always just find it interesting that GW does so much cross promotion at the same time. I don't think it's bad. I think it's smart business. But I don't see that happen too terribly often when it comes to completely different platforms like that. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
Fair enough.
Yes, the other Blood Angels release is a Sanguinary Priest, as well as a Captain.
I have to say, the Sanguinary Priest, he looks very boring. And very gaunt.
Well, to be fair, I think the point of comparison is compare it to the Primaris Apothecary. Not the Biologist one from Leviathan, the actual Primaris Apothecary. And compared to that model, there's a fair bit different and a fair bit going on in terms of, you've got the Chalice, the Chainsword is in use instead of, just sort of stat around. They've moved the Narthecium, the equipment.
No, I get that. My comment was in regards to the previous Sanguinary Priest model, which to me exhibited a lot more character.
Yes, we're not referring to Corbulo directly here, are we?
No, that's not Corbulo. That's just regular Sanguinary Priest.
No, I know that's not Corbulo. I just wanted to just make sure that for the sake of the viewers, we're being clear. Yeah, I agree. They could have copied that pose 1-to-1, and to be honest, they have copied that model 1-to-1, and then just put the Chalice on the hip and made the Narthecium across, and they've made the Chainsword more generic, and that's about it. And when they've stripped the robes back a bit.
And the halo.
Yes, that's gone completely.
Yes. But one thing I do actually appreciate with the Captain kit, they did a callback to a very, very old piece of, not just only a very old piece of Warhammer art, but also a very old Rogue Trader era model with the the prototype Captain Tycho, the gold guy.
Yeah, they've really done it. I was going to say as we got down, I was really impressed with the Blood Angels captain. Like, considering how generic Space Marine number 12 a lot of the Marine heroes can be, it feels very distinct and unique to the Blood Angels, and I'm actually very impressed with the kit. Never mind
Even though they shaved off his nipples.
Well, yeah, whatever. But just the overall flexibility of the kit combined with the very Blood Angels-y look, like you could tell me, even if that model wasn't painted and I couldn't see the shoulder pad, at like 12 yards I could tell you that was a Blood Angel. Quite easily I could tell you that was a Blood Angel. You know?
Fair enough.
But yes, also I saw some people saying, and I agree with them, that if you take the wings off, this is basically just a better Kotias baseline than the actual new Kotias model.
Yeah, it's actually got better proportions for it. Hasn't got the mum hips.
And also, you know, all the sculpted details and things like that.
That too, yeah. Speaking of Kotias, he's also got a new book coming out, which I think might actually be coming out at the time of recording tomorrow. A book called Demon Hammer, which...
yeah, I've not read into it. There's been a few books announced this week, but I've not read into this one. It's by Darius Hinks, and Kotias looks a lot cooler here than he does in his model, just saying.
Yeah. In addition to the Kotias novel, we're also getting the 20th anniversary of Ravener as well.
Because they can't stop re-releasing Eisenhorn and Ravener books, can they?
No, but... You know, at least it's this one's actually got an excuse. It's 20th anniversary. It's actually got an excuse for it to be re-released this time.
Yep, it can officially almost buy alcohol in America now.
Though I'm still annoyed the fact we didn't get a 20th anniversary of Fire Warrior.
Well, what did you expect?
A 20th anniversary of Fire Warrior. That's what I expected.
Got him.
I really didn't. I really didn't.
It's probably because of bad blood between GW and Simon Spurrier still, but that's neither here nor there.
But speaking of Inquisition, I've actually been doing a lot of reading around the articles this week because they previewed the Agents Combat Patrol in the Sunday preview article. And it really got me thinking about, and genuinely, I tweeted this out, that I almost actually want to pick up and play Agents, because I was thinking to myself after what I've been doing with my Tau project, where I made that little sub-project with the Roman Emperor Ethereal, of having a combat patrol army or a spearhead army, like an army I'm never going to expand really, but one that I can just play the small game with and do as a little fun side project when I get bored. And the combat patrol itself is 20 arbitrators, the inquisitorial kill team, and an assassin. And I looked at it, I was like, that's really, 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 really good. But then it's like, this just feels like it's missing an Inquisitor. Like, it really felt like if this had a proper Inquisitor, not just a, you know, what do you call it? The interrogator, or whatever you want to call the baby Inquisitors. Like, if you had a proper Inquisitor in there, I genuinely would be so tempted to just say, you know what, that's my combat patrol army, because the Arbitrator's kit is awesome, the Inquisitorial kill team is really cool, Assassins are cool, and Inquisitors are also kind of cool, but there's no generic Inquisitor kit, which is really quite irritating.
It is a bit of a... Yeah,
though, ironically enough, I think if I were to pick one of these armies up, because I have been tempted, it would probably be the Order Hereticus. I know, surprising, I didn't go with Zenos because me. Because although the Zenos one has the Rogue Trader team, which is really cool, and the Navigator, and, well, Deathwatch, just the Arbitrator's kit combined with the Inquisitorial kill team, and actually, I can't believe I'm saying this, Inquisitor Greyfax, is a really cool looking and seems quite solid army to put together, rather than here's some Inquisition stuff and some random allies. It's a proper feel of an Inquisition army compared to the other one.
Yeah.
But no, I think if I were to do it, it would be Hereticus, but I'd want to throw in some of the Navy stuff and the Rogue Trader stuff and the Navigator stuff as well. Like the actual Navy bits, like the Voidsman at Arms and the Navy Breaches, would go really nicely alongside Arbitrators and things like that. I don't know. It appeals to me. I know I'm never going to do it because I ain't got the time and I ain't got the money, but it did appeal. So they also talked a bit about how points and allies work with the Inquisition. That they're going to have 2 different points costs depending on what you're doing. So if you're playing like Space Marines and you yank in some Grey Knights, it costs more than just running agents with Grey Knights in it.
Fair enough. Just going back to books briefly, we finally got a squat novel.
Oh, it's finally out?
Well, it's not out yet.
It's been announced at the very least, yes. The High Kahl's Oath.
Yes, I'm going to be honest, I read the extract and I got bored.
That's my biggest worry. Like, I'm still relatively new to this. I've heard history. I've seen the way things have shaped and changed. But at the same time, it's like, wow, I have never seen a complete, like, utter assassination of hype when it came to the leagues. Like, I know Pancras No Work always makes the joke of the only thing that's holding them together is Deep Rock Galactic memes. And I laughed, and then I thought, and then it made me sad, because he's kind of right.
Yeah, we had a good talk with Pancras a couple of episodes ago.
Mm-hmm. That's actually how I found out about you guys. No, that's I haven't seen the excerpt yet, but that's disheartening. Like, can I pop off for a hot second?
Go for it.
Yeah.
So, let Horus Heresy and 30K be Horus Heresy and 30K. Let 40K be 40K. Like, I don't
follow, because they are completely separate.
So I'm insanely biased as a Zenos player. I have multiple Zenos armies, and the only Imperium army that I have is Guard, because I think the everyman trying to fight 4 different Satans is infinitely more interesting. But it's like, there are things that keep happening where it's like, stuff keeps getting dragged into Primarchs, Space Marines, etc. Like, I was trying to go back through and learn the origin of the Tyranids, and it's like, oh, it was an event that happened during the Horus Heresy. Okay. So it's like, disassociate. And it's like, when I feel like that, with a couple of rare exceptions, Infinite Divine being a great example of how this is very much not the case. But it's like, I read Brutal Cunning, right? I love Brutal Cunning when it's about orcs, and sometimes when it's about the Mechanicus. Everything else is wasted potential.
Yeah, I found that book. I found that book kind of annoying of how it was marketed as like, it's a book about orcs, and orcs are only here for like a third of the book.
And it's not. It's just, sorry, I'm getting super, super intense, but it's not. The climax combat, slight spoilers. This is your time. Close your ears for 10 seconds.
It's an old book, it's fine.
Okay, the final climax in the Orc book is about a tech priest and a warp smith.
Yeah.
No bad. Go back, do it again. It's like, the best Zenos material is when it has nothing to do with the Imperium or tangentially related to the Imperium. So
they also Phil Kelly's Farsight books.
Oh boy. The first one.
God, because I love those books. Have I touched a nerve?
No. That's actually because the thing is that they make in the first Farsight book anyway. I haven't read the second one. I got through it and I got distracted by Brutal Cunning and a couple other things. The way that they made the Imperium seem extremely monstrous, I thought was great, because from Tau perspective, they absolutely would. That's really good use of Imperium in a Zenos book, but it's like, God, like Gazgul's book, Prophet of the Law, they spend so much time talking about the Zenos Inquisitor and her life, and it's like, I don't care. We don't care. It's like her interactions with Makari, the rune priest,
Psychic Ogre.
Spaceman. Yeah, that interaction, pretty cool. And everything related with like Biter and whatnot, who is Makari's translator. It's fine. Like, it works, it's good, but they spend chapters talking about these individual Imperium characters, and it's like, this is the Orc book. Get him out of here. Sorry, I know, I super popped off.
I get it completely. I'm a Tau player. I get it.
It's just, the reason why I say let 30k be 30k and 40k be 40k, 30k and Horus Heresy, at least as a game and a book series, it is the origin of the Space Marines and when the Imperium was kind of at an exceptional low point. I get that. That's fine. But it's like, there is so much more in the 40k universe, and it's not really being brought up or talked about all that much. I get into arguments with people because I say expand on the War in Heaven, because it's the whole reason why the Horus Heresy exists. Expand on that a little bit.
Which War in Heaven? Because there's been about 4.
Yeah, I know. Just the War in Heaven between the old ones, Orks, Eldar, against the Necrons, Catan, and all of that. Yeah. So anyway, it's like there's so much that could be done there, and there's nothing being done with it. Or heck, going back to the Imperium, it's like, what about the war on Mars during the Heresy? Where's the expansion on that?
That's in the Heresy series, the Schism of Mars. It's in like 2 or 3 books.
Okay, how long is it though?
Mechanicum is a full-length novel, and I know there's other novels and novellas around it. I don't know how many exactly.
There's Cybernetica, which is also a novella. Yeah,
gotcha.
There's also going to be the campaign book, The Civil War of Mars, as well.
Okay. It's
and
like
they're also getting a Heresy campaign book like right now.
I did hear about that. I did hear about that.
Oh, I thought you were referring to another one. Sorry.
It's like 30k is expanding in a way that I appreciate as a non-Space Marines enjoyer. I appreciate it because the Mechanicus Mechanicum, I can't remember if they switched over as an Adeptus organization yet or not, but it's like there was so much going on.
Heresy that it happens.
Okay, so there's so much going on in that's so interesting. And I just feel like it's not getting touched on. And then I look at 40k and it's like there's so much you could do with this, and there's like it feels. I'm being hyperbolic, but it feels like there's so little effort. And to hear that the League's book is opening up being boring, I'm like, of course.
In fairness, it is just one excerpt that could be just giving like a false impression kind of thing. Like they could have inadvertently chosen like a passage like, okay, we're going to get this passage, but it's not going to spoil anything, and just inadvertently end up being like a really boring passage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, how much do you want to give in an excerpt without actually giving away the plot of the book, or like a big spoiler kind of thing? You don't want to.
Well, I can tell you from having read the excerpt for Children of Teclis, the Lumineth novel, like I genuinely wanted to buy the book as soon as I read the excerpt. They can do it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've talked about at length with, not necessarily with authors directly, but certainly around them, about why no Zenos. It's simply down to sales. They don't sell in the same way that an Imperium book does, and that's why there's no much effort made with them, or they feel they need to put the Imperium in there because it just doesn't sell.
How much advertising do they put behind it, though?
About the same as every other novel.
I mean, historically that has been the case, because remember when we had Aaron Dembski-Bowden on the show, he actually turned around and said the reason he doesn't write Zenos books is because, one, A, he's a slow writer, and B, Zenos books generally don't sell in comparison to Imperial theme ones. That's why he doesn't write them, because like it takes him so long to write a book, he's going to be losing money if he writes a Zenos book.
That's tragic.
That is tragic.
Because the Zenos...
granted, that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
but...
that's why I said historically. I mean, because it was part of the reason as well, like... why the Inari series ended up being cancelled, because the second Inari book it underperformed so badly that Games Workshop just cancelled the series, and it was supposed to be a trilogy.
Well, it was bad. I
wouldn't say it was bad. I'd say it was more what the fuck is going on kind of thing. I wouldn't say it was bad. I'd say it was just more like out there, I suppose. It was just like so bizarre, I suppose you could say. It was so bizarre. I was like, okay, what the actual hell's going on kind of thing. I wouldn't call it bad. Like, it wasn't like, say, Damnos. Damnos, I thought, was one of the worst books I've ever bloody read. You know, It was just so boring. And I had to force myself to finish it. It was just so bad. It was like, okay, I don't really care that Katsukari is having a crisis of conscience against a Necron. I just need to know about this Flayer Lord.
You want extremely hot take from a Zenos player, an exclusive Zenos player?
Yep.
I tried reading They Will Know No Fear. I hated it. I couldn't get past chapter 6. It was so boring. I couldn't. Because they spent chapters talking about the grass on a random planet that had nothing to do with Gilliman or the Ultramarines.
Oh, no fear. Yeah, so I've always talking about a different book. Sorry, my mind went blank for a second.
Sorry. No, it's fine. It's just like I would say GW does it to themselves because and this is speaking as a new player, comparatively, they do not advertise anything non-Imperium that hard. I don't think they do. I don't know what the history is when it comes to that, but now that it's really starting to hit mainstream media, you're going to find people that are going to be... You will find people like me who are more interested in something besides humans. I'm not discrediting people who like the Imperium or anything like that, but it's like... I think Pank put it best when he described how to like release new models, instead of it being like Marines, Tau, Marines, Eldar, Marines, Orks, Marines. It should just be like Marines, Zenos, Marines, Zenos, Marines, Zenos, Marines, Zenos. Like, I feel like GW does it to themselves, and the reason why so many of these books and whatnot don't sell is just, I don't think they get advertised as much. They don't get put in the limelight nearly as much.
Well, I think what would be fair to say is that they don't get the same frequency because they only need one release and edition, etc. Mm-hmm. But when it is their turn, they get as much of a look in as any other faction does.
Unless it's Craft Wars, in which case, no, you got to stick with your second edition Warp Spiders that are 30 years old.
Yeah, but when it's time to do Codex Eldari, they will get 5 or 6 different articles with models, lore, rules, etc. They will get it. They will get the same amount of attention on Warhammer Community as the Blood Angels will get, or as Imperial Agents have had this week.
I would also, I guess I would bring up too, it's like, you look into the narrative, and I'm gonna rope in Chaos into this as well, because I think Chaos gets a bad rap, despite not being a supreme fan of Chaos. It's like, if there is a book with Space Marines in it, they will win. They will never take an L. So why would anyone...
That I can tell you, we've been around a long time. They take a lot of L's.
Who takes L's? I'm smiling and genuinely curious.
So the Iron Warriors got absolutely battered by the Orks.
When was this?
Castellax, yeah.
Castellax.
Yep.
The first part of Damnos, they got absolutely battered by the Necrons.
That was Ultramarines, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it?
Damocles, let's be fair, I think the Tau won that one in the Damocles book against the Raven Guard,
but that's because
they killed their chapter master.
But that's because the Tyranids
Damocles has nothing to do with the Nids. You're getting a bit crossed with another conflict there.
Was that the first battle of Mugalaf Bay, or was that something else?
I'm thinking of... I think I read Damocles in and of itself.
Right, okay.
Like, just the book Damocles, I think, was both books in one. And I'm pretty confident I remember the Tau winning in that particular book.
Okay.
There's also the third Night Lords novel where they pretty much had the shit kicked out of them by James R.
Yeah, and let's not forget that there's...
And Night Lords my favourite legion as well. I got no excuse to complain about that.
Ahriman's taken a couple of L's in his time.
So I guess as a new player looking in, I'd have to ask the question of, what did it matter?
None of the books matter in the wider context of the galaxy.
I guess that's fair.
Like, most of the books don't even talk to each other, never mind to the wider narrative.
I mean, some of the authors don't even talk to each other, but that's a whole different matter.
That's squirrely to me.
They haven't got time.
I mean, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here and I'm not just going to defend GW to the hilt, because yes, they need to write more Zenos. Yes, Zenos winning more would be great. Yes, Chaos winning more would be great. And maybe it is just we've been around so long, and particularly working with Remleiz, who's basically a walking encyclopedia, that I'm aware of all these things. But certainly I could imagine I'm trying to think how long it took me to read a book where the Space Marines lost. It was probably the Gildar Rift. So it probably took me a couple of years before I read a book where the Space Marines lost. But then again, it took me about 2 or 3 years before I really started reading. So.
Yeah. I suppose you could also argue the World Engine, because even though the Necron planet thing got blown up, an entire chapter was wiped out in the process. So
it's like I'm so conflicted when it comes to I think it was Godblight.
Oh God, yeah.
It's because it was interesting. It was really interesting seeing Death Guard pulling ahead the way that they did.
Then Gilman said no.
Oh yeah, Gilman said no. Mortarion said no harder. Then the Emperor said no hardest. And then
go to your room.
Yeah, for real. And it's like, again, I 100% will recognize that I'm speaking out of ignorance in a lot of ways, but I think
we're coming from we've read 1,000,001 different
Sure.
novels, and
But-
I'm not trying to claim superiority here by any means,
Sure.
but simply
it's
we've
fine.
read a crap ton, and therefore we know all the niche ones. But the fact that it's still, I can only come up with 5 off the top of my head, and I've been in the hobby for 16 years, says a lot.
Like, I only make the arguments that I do, even if they are extremely uneducated, and they are uneducated. I make them because I'm a new player. There's gonna be potentially lots of new players, and a lot of new fans coming in, and I can't help being an Orcs player. I don't care. Like, Orcs lose, we don't care. Orcs win, we care, but whatever. Just move on. So I'm very ambivalent when it comes to W's and L's, but it's like, I just to go back to the book, I'm just like, there are people out there that really love leagues. Like, they got into it for one reason or another, and it's like, if there's not a fostering of that faction, it's like you're gonna kill any momentum that you built up with it. And I'm trying to look at this as a person who just wants to be in this community. Like, I don't want to isolate myself in Orcs or Zenos or whatever. I want to get out there and be more involved and whatnot with everything. But it's like, there's just got to be more to it. Like, especially as it's hitting the mainstream. Like, either that or there's fall off.
No, it's understandable, and that's why there's a lot of people who come into 40k with the impression that the Imperium or the Space Marines are the good guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. No one is.
Yeah.
But people come in with that impression because they're portrayed with very strong main character syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
But main character does not necessarily mean, well, it does mean protagonist. It doesn't necessarily mean hero.
Right. And that's the bitter pill to swallow that a lot of people try to do and maybe sometimes can't. One of my favorite 40k memes is like a mom walks into a GW store and says, my son's really 6-year-old son. My son's really interested in this series. Who are the good guys? And it's like the multiple equations in the foreground with the person looking in the middle distance. And it's like, that's...
The answer is Tau, for the record.
I'd say maybe Farsight, Tau, like, but we know so little. I feel like we need to know more to get a better bearing over where
the good
their
guys
actual
of the Gretchen Revolutionary Committee.
Dude, I want Gorka Morka to come back so bad.
So do I.
Well, interesting in the fact that Speed Freaks, the racing game, has gone into early access.
Yep, I've been streaming that a whole heck of a lot. In fact, like I said, my video that went up a bit over an hour ago was exactly on that. It's like orcs get a lot of extra attention. I went back and I checked between all the Zenos, and it's like orcs absolutely have more models, more units. I think they have more books, or at least more books featuring them.
Yeah, because they're the easy antagonist villain of the week.
They really are. But it's like, I talk with Pank so much, and he just keeps talking about how he wishes there was more Eldar, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of wish there was too. They did a whole heck of a lot, and it was just sad to see the Inari books fall away in the way that they did, and I'm praying it doesn't happen with the League's players, League's enthusiasts.
Have you read the Path of the Eldar series or the Path of the Dark Eldar series?
No, I haven't yet. I am catching up.
That's fair.
I'm trying to get through some of the other Tau books, and I know Pank is going to drive into my brain a lot of the Eldar books. And my wife is super into Eldar, both Drukhari and Eldari, so it's inevitability. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I was ending on.
Okay.
Fair enough. One last thing regarding books, going on pre-order tomorrow, is the novel Demon Breaker, which has a very nice looking limited edition.
Ooh.
And I have to say, I really like how this looks. I just hope it's not one of those ones that has the fake fabric on the cover, because I hate those with a passion.
Did it like shred, or?
No, it the tamper grouse on top, they wear off over time.
Oh,
because it's fabric.
Oh, I see. Yep.
With the Celestine one, it was done to look like a church banner kind of thing. But it's just the paint is so thinly applied that it can just flake off. It's like, no.
Oh, that reminds me. Lilith's book released not too long ago, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah,
yes.
we haven't. Have you read that yet, Ren?
I haven't. No, sorry.
No. Okay, we'll get to that in due time then.
Yeah.
No. Also, Sorry. Go on. Go on.
No. Go ahead. You're fine.
I'm changing the subject. Go on.
I was just gonna say my wife started reading and she really loves it. That's it.
Good. Well, that's it. Is there's a new edition of Middle Earth coming out.
Ooh.
And that's it.
Oh, and also there was an Orc short story released today as well regarding Chalnath called Cunning and
Yes,
Brutal.
I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I saw that.
Brutal. Now we got Cunning and Brutal.
I was about to say, it's like, I love the fact they had to kind of reverse it, otherwise there would be confusion. Oh, goodness.
That's how you know they follow Mork, because he's cunning but brutal.
That's fair. That is super fair. I don't know. I guess just as a new player, I'm just like, I just want more. I just want to grab GW and just shake him like, give me more.
Right. Well, is there anything else in the news? I'm not entirely sure. Not really, is there? Apart from some...
That's Speed Freaks mentioned that. There's an article on Boarding Actions. There's some Angmar miniatures to go with this new edition of Middle Earth, which are actually quite cool looking barbarians if you wanted to spice up your Dark Oath, I guess. But
interesting.
You wouldn't be able to use them in tournaments because tournaments don't allow Lord of the Rings minis.
No, of course they don't. But
no.
It's it's a thing.
Yeah.
No, so if you give me 2 minutes, I am going to attempt to put the baby to bed whilst you guys have a bit of a conversation. So excuse me.
Yeah. No worries, man.
Go for it.
So I'm native Texan, or at least right now I'm native Texan. What was it? I think it was the Lone Star Open that happened not too long ago. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, something like that.
Oh yeah.
I remember there was an orc list that just made me crack up super hard. That went completely undefeated, and it was very much a meme list. But it was like it was 30 Ludas, 30 Flash Gits, 100 Grots, 9 mech guns, and and some big mechs with shock attack guns for the Ludas.
Oh damn.
And it just made me, this is completely out of nowhere, I apologize. It's just, this made me smile so much because one of the things that had always bothered me, have you guys ever dealt with, in all of your years of playing and being involved in this, have you ever been the victim of essentially army typecasting?
Second edition NIDS probably was one I've seen closest to that because I remember in second edition, anyone you knew who played NIDS in second edition, their armies were all exactly the same.
Gotcha.
I know I ended up changing that because with the third edition codex, they even mentioned saying like, yeah, we noticed how we go to like stores and people playing the games, and anyone with NIDS, their armies are very, very samey. So we either introduce a bunch of new units, try and spice things up. But they were always saying, because like you had your warriors, you had your Hydran, you had your Lictor, you had your Carnifex, you had your Termagants, you had your Hormagaunts, you had your Gene Stealers, you had your Rippers, and that was it, pretty much.
Yeah.
Maybe Gargoyles if you're feeling spicy.
Well, because it's like, I know that armies are built to do very specific things. Factions are built to have... to be better at certain things. It's like, I would never sit here and try to argue that Tau should ever have melee capability outside of Farsight himself.
Aunchi as well, don't forget.
That's true. See? There we go.
He bisected an Orc Warlord with just a stick.
That's my point. It's like, I looked at that list and I laughed, and I thought to myself, I have a game coming up with a friend. I'm going to bring it and see how it went. It went rough for them. It's just... Again, this is. I'm sorry if this is just really random. It's just something that's been on my mind lately as I've been playing the game. Orcs, for anyone who may not know, Orcs hit on a 5-up when it comes to range 9 times out of 10. If you got a Grot behind it, it's a 4-up, and then they melee on 3s, sometimes 2s. And I remember when I first started out, because I love Bad Moons, I love their dumb gun culture, the culture of Dakka, so to speak. And I had so many people either get mad at me for running ranged heavy or telling me I was playing incorrectly because I was playing ranged heavy orcs. And for a long time, I couldn't win because I just couldn't roll very well. But that bad luck has finally balanced out a bit. And now when it comes to... I do a whole lot of dread mob, sometimes dreadless dread mobs, and it's just a whole bunch of mechs. It's gone undefeated. Like, and people get mad. I've had people recently that I played against get really, really mad because it's like, I'm sorry, I've got 250 shots and I explode on 6s. It's just, I don't know what to tell you. It's just random. I even bring bubble chuckas, which are like some of the most random things that you can bring aside from killicans with how the new shooty power trip works.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was always curious when it came to old Vanguard players like yourselves, if you ever experienced that where it's like you bring in a kind of army and it doesn't matter where it's from, Imperium, Space Marines, Zenos, whatever, and people expect it to be one way and it's not, and it does really well, and then people get salty about it, or people get salty at the fact that you're not playing it the way that they think it's played. Like, I've had so many people call me a coward. I'm like, I'm a Bad Moons player. What do you want from me? So yeah, like, have you had any experiences like that?
Not in that way. No, not really. But I think it might be because, like, back in 2nd edition, for example, like, people weren't so focused on things like, say, the meta, like a lot of people are today. I mean, no disrespect to any tournament players, because I know that's, like, a whole valid scene and all that. But I know that with tournament players today, there is a meta, and people go like, okay, this army is the best for this meta. But like back in 2nd edition, since the internet wasn't as prevalent back in 1996 or whatever. Sure. So people generally knew less in regards to what the meta was, unless they were like really hardcore. So personally, I've never experienced it myself, but that's not to say it never happened. I've just been lucky in that regard, I suppose you could say. But then again, like back in my younger days, I was mostly playing like more of the skirmish games, like things like Gork and Morka, for example. I was playing that really heavily because I love, because I got that on my birthday and I love that game. And I was also playing Lizardmen and Fantasy, which interestingly enough, in 5th edition had like one of the most broken units in the entire game, even though on paper they were absolutely shit.
Yeah, no, it's just, that's something that I always love goofing around with, because I've never been a meta chaser. I don't like meta chasing. I feel like it just impacts the game too much. That's not to say I don't think tournament play should exist. It absolutely should. Yeah. But I think there should be different, and there is different regulations. But it's like as a new player, nothing has been more interesting than playing around with things that nobody really messes around with. Like, for as much as I say I'm not big into Space Marines, I love the Raptors. I love the Raptors because they are the I think my friends call them the sensible Marines, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that sort of pseudo antithesis, just like narratively. But I also love the idea of these are Space Marines that are Codex compliant, but they don't really care that much about it comparatively.
Rules are made to be bent. Kind of thing, yeah.
They specialize in hit-run tactics, camouflage, most everything that most Space Marines... Again, I'm speaking hyperbolically, so I apologize. Most Space Marines don't pay too much attention about that, or they think that it's a dishonest or dishonorable method of combat. But I look at them and I'm like, you know what? If I get a whole bunch of Phobos units on the table, push them up halfway up the board before the game even starts, and then put a couple of Invictus Warsuits right next to them so they could just shoot on whenever the other unit's being attacked. There's some funny gameplay that could be going on there, and it's just you don't see it.
No.
And I didn't know, because my community's small. I wasn't sure if there had ever been experimental backlash like that, because when it comes to video games, that happens constantly, which is one of the reasons I've been getting away.
Punished. So there was I was a Howl player, there was a point where Kroot conga lining to deny reserves.
I remember that.
Yeah, that jank got extremely lambasted.
Oh, God.
But at the same time, I'm with you in that I enjoy playing Jank. Like I play Tau, I play Farsight Tau, and I play Farsight Bomb. I've actually joined a Tau Facebook group quite recently because I thought it would be interesting. And a lot of people talk about, oh yeah, I play Retaliation Cadre, but I do it like actually I don't run that many battle suits, and I play them at long range. And I'm like, mate, it's a Retaliation Cadre. The whole point is to get up in the face and hit stuff with your big fancy suits. Why are you camping and waiting for your opponent to come to you? What are you actually doing? And then they're like, oh no, I just play Fish of Fury with lots of breaches. I'm like, I like breaches too, but you know what breaches are actually good for? You know,
Breaching.
So yeah, it's one of those. I am all here for the jank, but I am also here of like just off with your meta play. It's like
Sure.
like deflamers. You will not remember the era of deflamers. But if your girlfriend ever looks back, sorry, your wife, I should say, I misspoke that.
Sure.
About looking back at old Eldar, Wraithguard used to have weapons that auto-wounded and were AP1, which meant they ignored all armor. Oh, and did I mention they didn't have to roll to hit either because they were flamers?
So yeah, no, I've actually played a couple of games of Horus Heresy as I've got a whole bunch of like weird custom like Gorkonauts and whatnot, so they have relatively the same profile as Knights, and I just play them as Chaos Knights. And it's so interesting because I'm getting a taste of what I've been told old 40k used to be in terms of rules and whatnot.
Yeah, because it is a play on 7th edition.
Yeah. And it's been so weird because it's like I've quote unquote grown up using one set of variables and values, and now it feels like it's completely backwards on top of like a lot of other complexities. I like the complexities. It's hard to memorize, but I do like it.
Yeah. It's one of them. I grew up with 5th, 6th, and 7th, and they are much harder. I still would misplay in 7th playing a rule like it was 5th. So I do understand what you're saying.
So it's weird because like I have the opposite problem where it's like someone says, oh, it's AP1. I'm like, that's not bad. I'm like, you don't get a save. And it's like, oh, that's right. We're going backwards from what I know.
Yeah, it is. And it's one of those that when Age of Sigmar brought in all its new rules changes when it came out in 2017, this was before 40k got done over and made into the new systems that it was. People were like, this does not make any cocking sense. And how it all worked. And then 40k did it slightly tweaked and thought, well, this is just what we do now.
Can I throw a question at you guys? Because again, new player talking to veterans. How do you guys feel about the massive change in 10th? Because I learned, I got into the hobby at 9th, but I didn't play till 10th, but I knew of the rules. Like the complete removal of army limitations such as fast attack, heavy support, infantry, etc.
Sorry, 2 seconds. That jank of Forsword kind of slipped away in 8th and has been slipping away since 7th. The total removal of it was a logical conclusion. It was always going to go that way. Because it used to be like back in 5th, there was one Forsword chart that everybody had to play by. And you could unlock certain units that filled that chart in different places by moving them around, like making Pikers troops in Orks, for example. Then they added the different detachment systems in 6th or 7th, like the Necron Decurion being the best known one, and that made a difference. And then 8th changed again, and I just sort of expected it to go the way of, minimum limits go nuts.
That's interesting, because I've had some of my more veteran friends say that they hated the fact that they got rid of the how they got rid of the army structure to kind of keep things balanced.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting hearing the other perspective.
I mean, I still remember back in going back to 2nd edition. I'm showing my age in this regard, but like you didn't actually have a force organization chart per se, because like in 3rd edition they introduced the whole HQ, fast attack, elites, troops, whatever. But in 2nd it was characters. You can spend up to a maximum of 50% of your army's points on characters, 25% on squads minimum, 25% on heavy support, and up to 25% on allies, which was needlessly complicated because you had to do maths. So I always thought the introduction of the force organization chart in 3rd edition was a much simpler, much more streamlined process. You can just go, okay, you can have one HQ. Okay, so I can have one character. Okay, good, kind of thing. You know, rather than saying, right, I'm going to buy like, you know, a Space Marine captain in Terminator and bulk him up with all this war gear cards to make him cost 1,000 points, you know, kind of thing. It was a bit silly because it was back in the days of what would be known as Hero Hammer, if you're familiar with that term.
Oh, okay. I've heard that term before, but I didn't know what it meant.
It's basically when characters were like the most broken thing in the game, particularly in Warhammer Fantasy, because like you could literally just get like a special character, tool out with magic items, and have him like wreck an entire army single-handed. Pretty much.
Hero
that
Hammer,
is supremely interesting.
Was that sorry?
Hero Hammer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'd step away for a second there.
No, you're fine.
You're fine.
It's just. Sorry, I know time is running short, so I'll stop badgering you.
We've still got the best part of an hour. Don't worry, you're good.
Okay. So no, I don't know. It's just I don't know how many new players you've had on the podcast before.
Yeah, a few people who've barely touched the thing.
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, no, it's just I would definitely want more new players to find podcasts like yourselves and whatnot, and kind of see how things were, how things are, and then kind of compare the two together. Because I mean, as I've kind of proven it thus far, it's like new players will feel like they know a lot, but there's so much more to tear into.
Yeah, and that's something that, I mean, I went to one school league tournament, but neither of us are particularly. I play for fun. I'm a casual. I'm a filthy casual, and I'm proud of it. And it's one of those things that different podcasts do different things, and different shows and different YouTubers and different creators are all focused in different areas. Like you come here, you're probably going to get a lot of lore and some rather scathing opinions, because that's just how we are as people. We're British. What do you expect? But yeah, it is different, and it's one of those, if you can't really say to a new person coming into the hobby, watch this person, then this person, then this person. That'll get you sorted. Because if you want to know the intricacies and the ins and outs, go watch someone like Rem, or if you've got the time and want to see the old lore, then go watch some of my content. Or if you want like Heresy era, go watch someone like Oculus. If you want a real deep dive but also broad spectrum, go somewhere like Voldemort. If you want kit bashing and all that, go to Kirioth. If you want whatever, go to whoever. There's different creators and different shows for different niches everywhere.
Yeah, it's that would be the one thing that I would tell new players is like, don't get too overwhelmed with everything that you have access to, but also keep an eye out for, like, know what you want and then just kind of dip into that where you can find them.
Yeah, like if you decide, okay, I want to play 40k and my army's going to be Sister Battle, look them up and see and then just look around different creators. You might hear the same content 2 or 3 times in different ways, but you will get a sense of what sort of style you like and what sort of creators' ways work for you, whether it's the long form, whether it's the short form, whether it's the deep dive, whether it's the surface level, whether it's tactics, whether it's painting, whatever it may be. There's different strokes for different folks, and you've got to spread yourself a little bit without, as you say, getting lost in the shuffle.
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason why I started the channel that I did. It's like there are so many good, and I mean good, 40k content creators out there. The one thing that kind of made me sad, though, is that a lot of it was from an Imperium perspective, and I have I have zero problems with that. But it always felt like, what about if we went at it from the perspective of other factions? Because again,
my lore series is written from the perspective of a Tau author, but not a very, very, very well-read one.
Well, but I mean, like, as YouTubers, there was one YouTuber just got started. It's like Commander Nearsight. They are exclusively like a Tau YouTube channel, and it's like, I feel like there needs to be more of that. Like, that's why I wanted my Orc channel to be essentially for Orcs by Orcs. Because there are so many good, like, Imperium perspective lore videos and lore channels and whatnot, and that's cool. But it's like, speaking as someone who definitely leans heavy on Zenos, it's like, yeah, but what about from their perspective? Like, I want to do a complete sub-series of, like, talking about all the Space Marine chapters, Primarchs, and some of the other Zenos from an Orc perspective, not to, like, dog on anything or anyone, but to have it from that kind of unique, and I'm using massive air quotes, perspective, because, like, that's that is for any new people who might be getting into 40K. This is the beautiful thing about 40K. It is so diverse. Like, especially as a Zenos player, it can feel very daunting of like, God, everything is Imperium, but it's really not. And the only thing I wish was that there was more of more of GW advertising the fact that there is so much more to this gigantic, just all of the Milky Way system. And I know there's limitations, and I know that they have to have a poster boy in order to not only sell but to advertise and get branding identification. But it's like there's so much out there that then it makes it beautiful. And I just want to see more diversification, I guess. That's my soapbox speech, I suppose, is that I would love to see more of that.
No, it's understandable.
That's totally fair, yeah.
I'm super gabby and super passionate. I apologize to y'all.
That's not a bad thing.
No, that's
my
called being
first
a
time
hobbyist.
here.
That is called being a hobbyist. If you can't yap on about it and to the point that some people get almost bored, then you're not doing it right.
Go ahead.
No, we can literally, if we wanted to, we could do this show for, some episodes we could probably go on for 4 hours if we wanted to. I still remember episode 100, I don't know if you remember, Remleiz, where we recorded the 2-hour show, which, by the way, had about 15 to 20 people on it, because it was episode 100. And genuinely, we stopped recording, but the call kept going for another, 90 minutes, as if the show hadn't actually stopped. And it was genuinely, I almost wish I'd asked, I think it was Scarlett who was recording, to just keep the thing rolling, and I was just going to pick, there's the outro, and I was going to, hopefully, if I'd remembered, I'd have actually said, here's an unlisted video of just, this is what happened as everybody left and went to bed, type. Because we had Fresh, and we had Frederick Knudsen, and we had Snipe and Wib, and all sorts of different people all over the place. Just, it was the purest distillation almost of what our community was at the time, because everyone was in one call, and it was just as much chaos as you'd expect, to the point that I think it's the maybe one of 2 episodes I've ever had to censor.
Wow.
Yeah, because Frederick broke Fresh. Yeah.
Oh no! Yeah, no. When I get super passionate, I sometimes get a little swear, and I'm like, no, hold it back. No.
We're quite happy with swearing. This was beyond swearing.
Oh no!
Are you aware of Frederick Knudsen as a creator and Down the Rabbit Hole?
No, but I'm starting to get a feeling.
Yeah, I'll let you explore that one on your own time.
Oh heavens! But yeah, no, that's just the beautiful thing is just that there's so much out there, and I think the worst thing that could happen is someone feeling like, oh, well, it's only these 2 or 3 factions that get any attention whatsoever, and who are ever the focus, and it's like, I get it, I do. I just hope as 40K really hits more and more of the mainstream, there is a greater and greater diversification of what people are fans of. Because I think, I don't know, this is me being hopeful, but I feel like that would unite us more so than anything else. But that's just me being hopeful.
No, I understand.
Oh man, what a time.
Right, so have you been reading anything as of late, out of curiosity?
Yes, I finished Flesh and Steel.
How was it?
How is it?
It was good.
It sounds like there's a bug. It was good.
It was good once it got going.
Right, okay.
I see.
One of those books,
because
okay.
it was one of those books of, I picked it up 6 to 8 weeks ago, started it, got to about chapter 3 or 4, and then didn't pick it up again for weeks. And that's happened to me before with other novels, there's the Hollow King novel, Kado Ezekyo, which I still have not picked up. But I decided about a week or 2 ago, I'm going to force myself now to see this through, because I'd started reviewing it for the show. I'm going to see it through, and I'm glad I did. So this is a Warhammer crime novel. So it's it's set on Varangantua, and the setup, which I explained the last time to those who weren't watching or have forgotten because it was 2 months ago, is there's been a murder where a servitor has seemingly killed a guy, chopped him up, and left him on both a Mechanicus and Imperial territory. What happens now? We've also got an issue of the investigator, the probator, I think is his official title, who is the disgraced son of a noble house who fled said noble house in disgrace, but is also under pressure to find the missing daughter of a high-ranking member of the local area's nobility.
Huh.
So there's two cases running. There's the missing girl and there's the mysterious servitor murder. And he ends up working with a Mechanicus investigator, Row 1 Lux, shortened henceforth to Lux, to actually investigate what the hell is going on. Because it's clear very quickly that the Mechanicus in particular want this covered up.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
I'll speed through the middle bit of there's another murder which is set up even more dramatically, and by doing deep written code, like atomic autopsies that the Mechanicus can do, they track a code, like an autograph written on the servitor, because the servitor didn't just go rogue, it was programmed to kill its owner.
Oh, okay.
When activated in whatever way. And they trace, basically they hack into the brain of the servitor after it died and trace back that it had a kill switch activated, but that kill switch wasn't just, an override. It was there from construction. So this leads to I'm going to say biologist Magos. They're not. There's a particular, I think there was a genoturge, or I can't remember the exact term, called Zepho Sigma, Chen Zepho Sigma, who has gone on a runner, and for once, the Probator is given access to the Steel Mound, which is the Imperial name for where the Mechanicus are holed up, because he's got an augmetic arm, and therefore they're like, you are close enough to the machine god that we will let you in for the sake of your investigation. Meanwhile, before he goes to said investigation, he gets assaulted by a group of thugs, and then they are thugs, they beat him up, and they use shock mauls to properly knock him out. Because Marchenska, the noble, wants his daughter found. He wants the case solved and is willing to basically say, get off your arse and stop with this Mechanicus nonsense because I want my daughter. This sounds like a nothing, but I'm coming back to it. So, they go to the Steel Mound, and I've sent Remleiz the passage of they go through the process of servitor production in everything before surgery detail. So, you have a conveyor belt. The turret conveyor belt in Portal 2. In Portal 1, sorry. No, Portal 2. Where he's like, passing along, test, if accessible, carry on. If not, yeah, that. But for people.
Yeah.
With basically, a trapdoor into a mincer.
Yup.
Yeah. And all of this, and apparently they actually use anti-follicular agents so that servitors stay perpetually bald, which is something I don't think I'd ever heard.
Yeah, I've never heard of that actually.
Which I don't know if you had, Ren, but I hadn't.
No. Trying to think if there was one. I mean, the closest that I can think of is in the Bookkeeper's Skull with the clown servitor, but again, that could just be a wig. So
yes.
Whoa, you flashbang. Did you say clown servitor?
Clown servitor, yeah. Check out the novel The Bookkeeper's Skull. It's basically a murder mystery. It features a clown servitor, and it's a really good murder mystery novel. Even though I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, it has a clown servitor who's one of the first characters you meet. His name is Gambo. He's like, Gambo, sad. But he's kept as a toy for this noble kid. Yeah, for this rich kid. He's one of his toys.
You flashbang me so hard.
And he's got crazy. He's got no legs. He's sauntered off at the hips, whatever. So basically, he's just one of those weeble wobble but never fall down things. But it's he's a servitor who's a clown because he was a former serial killer. So he's turned into a children's toy.
Oh my god!
It's a great book.
Yes,
I recommend you check it out.
Woo!
Yeah, it's Warhammer horror. Go with it. So yes, after that, Probator realizes that the shock balls being carried by the guards at the Steel Mound are the same ones he got whacked with. And so he asks, are these sold? Do you sell these? No, we don't. Oh. Put a pin in that for later. So now we know that Marchenska has access to Mechanicus tech that he really shouldn't. So they interview the head of the Steel Mound, who is decidedly shady, but there's only so much you can do. And they go and investigate Sigma's desk, which has been cleared, of course. And Andus, his sort of superior, sort of shit-talks him a bit, but also makes it clear that, you know, this production of alpha grade or alpha plus grade servitors, these servitors are not as lobotomized as you would like to think. Because they are capable of working almost as personalities, servants, that kind of, like, not just a menial, like, mono-slave task. So it's effectively bordering on slavery, which is illegal in Varangantua. One thing that actually is illegal is slavery.
Oh.
So, again, come back to that. And through the fact they go and then find Sigma, he's been murdered because his servitor has been overridden, and actually overridden this time, and pulped him. And also gotten pulped itself, so they can't autopsy it. And then Lux nearly gets killed by another servitor. Or was it the same servitor? No, it was another servitor.
A servitor at the very least.
By another servitor, a combat servitor this time, with a melter gun, and you do not see many of those on Varangantua. To the point that Noctis makes a gamble play and says, "Cousin, you were telling me when we were dragged in front of Father about this guy, Menem Bar, who is rather unscrupulous and owns a pleasure yacht and all of those things." So his cousin, who is decidedly corrupt and inappropriate, secures him a meeting with Menem Bar, who links together, makes a few links and sort of suggests and tells Noctis about the links between both Marchenska and the Mechanicus. Because there are ship manifests linked to the servitors, and Menem Bar points out they're Marchenska ships.
Ah.
So I think you can see where this is all going, and Noctis goes back to the station and says, "Don't put Count Marchenska's name down, I need to put someone else's name down." And he goes in and he arrests his wife.
Right.
Because, here's the kicker, the daughter has been taken, the people who were killed, by the servitors were working with the Mechanicus as either criminal rounder-uppers for the servitor program or as dealers, like salespeople, that kind of thing, who were being shushed because they were asking too much or they were cracking or whatever else. But these gangers who had been working with these people had taken hostage Marchenska's daughter so that they could continue the leverage of using Marchenska's ships, unbeknownst to the Count, but in full knowledge of his wife, to ship the servitors off-world. Now remember, slavery is illegal, and also these are not listed in the ship manifests, so it's also, illegal trading.
Right.
So, put it all together, Noctis goes to arrest Mrs. Marchenska. She kills herself by something equivalent to a cyanide pill in her tooth, that kind of thing. And thus follows a daring rescue using Mechanicus auguries and a rather powerful Augmetic pistol to punch his way through a gang hideout and rescue the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. Which
just about works.
Yeah.
I've very much shortened it down, but the thing that's been rumbling on in the background is this whole book is written from Noctis' perspective, kind of like a diary, minus bits that are X-loads from Lux's own brain. And in it, he keeps talking to what is revealed to be his daughter, who he has no idea where she is.
Oh.
Because earlier on, we get this in sort of the back end, that he cheated on his wife, his daughter's mother, and she herself.
Right.
He went into a drunken stupor because it was his own fault and he was an idiot. And to be honest, he as a noble had treated his wife incredibly badly, not in an abusive sense, but you know what I mean. To the point that his father, Dymaxion is the family name, so I'm just going to call him that, sent his daughter off to the Schola Progenium. Now, the context, for those who maybe don't know what that is, that's the school that trains inquisitors and commissars and sisters of battle, and is exclusively for orphans.
Okay.
So, he sent Noctis' daughter away, even though she still had her father, to the Progenium. as a wake-up call stroke punishment, that it's for the best kind of thing. Which is why he fled the family home in the first place and went into such disgrace and became a cop. Because he couldn't be around those people anymore after what they'd done and everything else.
Right.
And then the book ends with sort of two administratum scribes talking about it. Oh, we'll talk about this more later. Obvious sequel bait. But it's one of those of, if you enjoy detective stuff combined with Mechanicus stuff, I think you would very much enjoy Flesh and Steel, because it really treads the line nicely of playing around with Mechanicus hierarchies and communications, like the fact that Lux can just randomly tip a throat way too far open and just shout in Binaric, and it sounds like screaming to you and I. It just completely throws Noctis off, and the fact that Noctis is like, I want to ask a question. Well, you can't, because that will offend the Magos, because you can't just say that. Oh, really? Watch me. Type thing. Sorts of... So, yeah, it's all tied up in the end as a standalone book. You could read it standalone, forget the epilogue, and just say, that's just a good book. But the sting of why Noctis is the way he is, and why he's such a hater of the noble houses and become a copper, is actually really interesting, because you wouldn't just expect, it's like, oh yeah, my daughter got sent to the School of Progenium, but wait, that's for orphans only. I know. As a bit of a kicker.
I mean, that's yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No. I was saying so. Yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say, like, it's books like that for anyone who hasn't been in a whole lot of like 40K books, the one thing that I find fascinating about the setting is that you can have like mystery, detective, comedy,
horror,
war story. Like there's so many genres that exist with just the books of this universe that I just think it's really fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things of why Warhammer Crime and Warhammer Horror exist, because it's a really great area to explore that most people don't. But the setting can accommodate very, very easily, so it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know I've sort of wibbled a bit, not gone into a great amount of detail, because I generally don't. And I've also already started reading Bad Loon Rising, which is a pun, which is the Goblin novel I referred to earlier. So, but definitely, I've said it before when I read the King of the Spoil book, the Warhammer crime novels are really, really good. If you want to see like hive shenanigans, gang warfare, intricacies, the application of the actual Lex Imperium, all that together, it is very interesting, and I do recommend people give it a read.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I've gone on to Bad Loon Rising. I won't go into it here, but it is a really interesting setup. But it does suffer from the problem you were talking about with the Zenos books, actually, of it cannot just be from the perspective of the not human faction. It has to keep jumping perspective back to, in this case, the cities of Sigmar. It cannot just sit there and be, you know what? I mean, admittedly, it's the protagonist and the antagonist perspectives, but that antagonist is a human. And we spend like half the book so far. I've read about 6 chapters. I think half the book has been spent with the antagonist. The human.
But I mean, the thing is that can work. Like, if I can go off really quick, there is a similar but very different structure between Brutal Cunning and Big Dakka, because it's
yeah, I've not read Big Dakka.
I will do my best not to spoil it then. Let me put it this way: when it comes to Brutal Cunning, it had too many factions and it had way too many perspectives, and it just, like I said before, again, quick spoilers, close your ears for 10 seconds. The final encounter was between a tech priest and a warpsmith in a book about orcs.
I'm getting deja vu.
Oh, no, sorry. So I'm talking about how the different perspectives can actually work.
Right. Okay.
So without spoiling it, Big Dakka does something similar, but the narrative events that happen between the Drukhari, because they're obviously the different side here, it starts off with, you know how the two are interconnected, but they're not meeting together. But slowly as the book goes on, they get closer and closer and closer together. And then about 2/3 through the book, everything is happening in sequence at the same time. And you're getting the different perspectives in the same chapter. That's the one thing that irked me a lot about the earlier Zenos books, is that one chapter is from the Zenos perspective, the other is from the Imperium perspective, and it goes back and forth very statically. And
yeah, that's what Badloon Rising has done. It's gone goblin, human, goblin, both. But I'm only in chapter 6, and now the battle's begun, so I don't mind jumping perspectives a bit, but I do take your point.
Sure, but it's like Big Dakka does it very, very well in that the two conflicting forces are starting off very far away, but they are very much linked together, and there's little hints of them getting closer, and they get closer and closer and closer until they're actually physically together, and then the whole book just follows them one and the same, and it's like, that's how you do it. That's how you can make this work.
Yeah, and I think that whole jumping perspectives thing is something that the main 40k past, like the current timeline's mainline series, Dawn of Fire, has really struggled with, is having multiple perspectives and then pulling them together, which the later books have done really, really well. Like Sea of Souls, which I read most recently, had 2 or 3 perspectives, but they all took place on one ship, so it didn't matter too much that it jumped around, but it all tied together at the end. And you've got, for example, Gate of Bones was a really good one because it had like 4 perspectives that all coalesced together into one storyline at the end, where we had like 3 Imperial perspectives and a Chaos one, but those Imperial perspectives joined together, 2, then 3, and then the Chaos perspective comes into the battle against them. But the first Dawn of Fire book, Avenging Sun, had 5 different perspectives following at least 2 different storylines on different sides of the galaxy.
That book was so bloated. Like, I maintain that you could take at least like 2 of those subplots and they can make them into full-blown novellas of their own, because they don't need to be in the book, I feel. Like the entire subplot about the archivist going through, the archives of Terra and that did not need to be in the book. Because basically, at the end of the day,
it was a great little novella.
It was a great novella, but it hadn't. But in that book, it just slowed everything down. It made the book bloated, and everything that character did in that novel amounted to fucking nothing. So it's like, it's a complete waste of time.
The one thing I will say, when it comes to narrative flow, I honestly think that the Militarum books do it best.
Okay.
I've gone through Steel Tread. I have gone through 15 hours?
That's a great book, yeah.
I went through 15 hours. God, you're going to cry.
Yeah.
I went through that. You've got the Caiaphas Cain books. I went through Longshot. I've read a lot of Astra Militarum books.
Have you read the Macarian Crusade books?
No, I haven't yet.
They're really good.
But my point is that all of their narrative is completely linear. And it was much, much easier to follow because you didn't have to keep spinning entire chapters in another perspective. And I always wondered, like, why isn't this done more? Like, I honestly don't know. So I would ask you guys who have very much more experience than I would. Is there any particular reason why you feel that they would change perspectives like that so much?
It was because I read it first, and my perspective was they're trying to show what the Imperium has become now. So it was a new era. Gilliman's back. They want to focus on the Crusade, of course, but also the logistical stuff that's going on in the background. Whilst we can focus on the Indomitus Crusade all we like, and it was the first battle, McCourt to Sound. But also the Imperium's back end has changed too. Like, scribes are actually delivering missives that are being missed because people are being taken by Gilliman to do important shit, like chronicle this stuff, like writing shit down. The Imperium doesn't write shit down, formally, make logs of things. They just write psalms and propaganda. So they took a guy to write it down, and the guy who they took ended up being the guy that the scribe's missive needed to get to. And so that got lost.
Yeah.
So it's just showing how the Imperium's changed. It didn't work in terms of a cohesive novel, but if it was a series of novellas, or maybe a novel and a bolt-on novella about the archivist, I think that would have worked.
Fair. Okay. Yeah, no, I I didn't want to pop off without knowing, but it's like that was something that always confused me as to why that particular structure went the way that it did. But yeah, no, I don't know. I just find all that really, really interesting in terms of how narrative is told.
Yeah, there's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of, if you're going to write multiple perspectives, then those perspectives need to either interchange, interlap, or be serving towards the same goal, rather than just being two stories told at once, because that should be 2 books.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
What about you, Rem? Have you had a chance to read anything this week?
I have. I've managed to finish off Death of Integrity, finally.
Woohoo! It's only taken you nearly as long as it took me to read Flesh and Steel, and that's saying something for you.
Yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of doctor's appointments recently, so I haven't really had time, sadly, but it is what it is. But yeah, so to catch everyone up on what's happening, Nova Marines and Blood Drinkers encountered the Space Hulk. Deus Mechanica showed said you can't blow it up because High Lord's Terror said so, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to go and nick all the artifacts within. So anyway, we come back from after the initial exploration into the Space Hulk, where they put the mapping charters and all that. And we're on the Blood Drinkers flagship when you got Chapter Master Cadis, who's stripped down to the waist, because of course he is, sexy Blood Angel man. He's making a stained glass window depicting the visions of Holos. Now, for those who are wondering, the visions of Holos is basically the big mythology of the Blood Drinkers chapter. A hero of the Blood Drinkers encountered a vision of an angel on a volcano, and that basically allowed them to put the Black Rage at bay, as it were, and doing so by embracing the Red Thirst, essentially. Hence why they're called Blood Drinkers. But as Cadis is making the stained glass window, he's getting a bit more and more irritable because he just can't get the trees right. I know it's not trees, but he can't get the angel right in the stained glass. He's getting annoyed. It's like, fuck it. His serf comes to him. It's like, is everything all right? It's like, no, I'm pissed off. Oh, your throat looks very delicious. No, get out. What? Get out. I was like, I'll kill you. I was like, I'll bite your throat out and drink your blood. The Reclusiarch comes in and goes, everything all right, sir? It's like, no, I'll be fine once we perform the rite, because the rite is basically the regular celebration of drinking blood, blah, blah, that keeps the Black Rage at bay. But anyway, we cut back to the Nova Marines flagship, and they're discussing the next phase of the plan to deal with the Space Hulk. And the plan is to basically bleed all the air out of the Space Hulk, so all the Gene Stealers migrate to areas with air, and they can survive without air because, plot armor, but they instinctively are drawn to pockets in Space Hulks that have air. So they'll put them into these pockets so they can, catch them in crossfires and wipe them all out. So they're preparing for this, and as they're making preparations, Cadis and the other Blood Drinkers, they perform the rite of blood drinking. The serfs literally plug in taps into their arms to drain it into like this big bowl. Literally, they have taps plugged into their arm, actual taps, like faucets.
As you do.
As you do. And Holos drinks the blood. Not Holos. Cadis drinks the blood. He's like, better. No, it's not better. I'm still feeling like shit. What the fuck? And then he realizes, oh god, I'm about to fall to the Black Rage. I can feel it coming on. He goes to Reclusiarch, like, I need help. I'm about to succumb to the Black Rage. Okay, well, you got 2 choices. I can either put a bullet in your head, or you can take the red and black. I'll take the red and black.
Death company or death.
Yeah. Good lad. So the Nova Marines and the Blood Drinkers, they perform their plan of bleeding all the air out of the Space Hulks and, cutting down the Gene Stealers, shooty, bang, bang, bang. They go in, and the Nova Marines are like, where's Cadis going? Oh, he's got a special mission. Right. Yeah, they're going to deal with the Patriarch. Oh, okay, fair enough. And as Cadis and Co are going through into the Space Hulk looking for the Patriarch, Cadis starts suffering from visions. Like, he starts thinking he's not himself, he's someone else. But he doesn't think he's Sanguinius. He thinks he's Holos. And every now and again, he switches in and out of this, his lucid state with the Black Rage. It's like, Reclusiarch, why am I not seeing the visions of Sanguinius? Why am I seeing Holos? And the Reclusiarch's like, you're blessed, sir, because only a small handful of warriors from our chapter have ever experienced the visions of Holos, which means you get to see exactly how Holos put the Black Rage at bay for our chapter and saved our chapter. Oh, okay.
And Oh, I remember this deal now. I remember how this went.
Yeah. So, eventually, Cadus fully succumbs to the visions of Holos, and he thinks he's fighting Astagai, which are like, creatures native to the Blooddrinker's homeworld, where he's just counting down gene stealers. He ends up encountering the Patriarch, he ends up killing that, but he's grievously wounded. And then he gets up, he wanders off after killing the Patriarch, he just disappears deep into the Hulk. Where's he going? No bloody idea. And Cadus he sees the vision of the angel, and he follows the angel up the mountain, even though he's just going deeper into the Space Hulk. And the angel speaks to him saying, welcome Holos, and welcome Cadus. And Cadus and Holos are standing next to each other in the vision.
Oh dear.
But the angel isn't sanguineous like you would think. It's Kairos Fate Weaver.
Yeah, and there's the kicker.
Yeah. And he says, right, I'll offer you a cure for both the Black Rage and the Red Thirst, and all you got to do is embrace Tzeentch. Yeah, no, mate, that's not going to happen. You sure? Because I've seen the future, and one of you does it. Yeah, it's not going to be mean, though, mate, so fuck you. All right, fair enough, off you go.
The fact that Kairos is so chill about it, because he knows he's got all of eternity to wait.
Exactly. And Cadus just wanders off and ends up falling down a pit. Bang.
Yeah.
Because of course he does, because he's all disorientated because of his wounds. But with most of the gene stealers dealt with, Nova Marines and the Blood Drinkers end up descending deeper and deeper into the Space Hulk to find the source of what the Mechanicus are after. Now they've only got a couple of hours left before the Space Hulk is due to translate back into the warp. And they need to try and basically get rid of whatever's jamming their signal so they can get the teleporters to lock onto them or whatever. And as they're descending deeper and deeper, they find what the Mechanicus are looking for. It's a pre-Imperial starship. Like Dark Age of Technology starship.
Right.
And it looks like it's made of solid chrome. Very shiny, very sleek. Pristine. It doesn't look like there's any damage on it whatsoever. It is pristine. But there's no door. There's no seam, there's no panel lining. It's okay, so how the hell do we get into this? And the Mechanicus start praying to the ship, because of course they do. And a door just materializes in the middle of the hull. Green light, glows up, and it just materializes this hole. Because the material of the ship, it's made of a human version of Necrodermis. It's made of living liquid metal. And
that's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
And not only that, but any damage it sustains, be it from a Gene Stealer Claw or from a bolter or storm bolter, heavy bolter, what have you, it instantly repairs. It's ooh, fancy. So they go inside, it's right, the reactor is what's jamming the signal, the reactors are clearly faulty, one team's going to split off and go down there to deal with that, the other half is going to go and examine the bridge, try and download any data records. What's that noise? Oh no, there's Gene Stealers outside. Right, lads, get ready to shoot. But then a force field gets erected by the ship itself to block the Gene Stealers from entering. It's oh, that's convenient. But that one Terminator stuck on the other side of the force field, he's fucked. And he dies, obviously.
Of course.
Of course. So, one team of Blood Drinkers and Nova Marines goes down deeper into the ship to try and stop it from jamming the signal. And as they do, they notice there is actually a breach in the hull itself that the ship couldn't repair because it was just too big. And Gene Stealers start coming through. And as they do, the ship's automated weapon systems come online. Literally, turrets start materializing out of the liquid metal. Full on, pew, 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 start shooting lasers. Not bullets, lasers, because obviously, Dark Age tech. And one tech priest and one, I think it's a blood drinker, goes into the reactor room to try and fix it. And meanwhile, on the bridge, the lead tech priest, Plosk, he's trying to interface with the ship's core to try and download the STC data that's contained within. And he encounters something he expected but didn't realize he was actually going to encounter. And that's the ship's AI.
Yeah, I was wondering if AI was going to show up somewhere, given how pristine this ship is.
And not only that, but the AI is pissed off, and it has an agenda against humans because the ship, back in the Dark Age of Technology, it went into the warp with its crew. They got hurled through time, as sometimes ships, are wont to do because it's the warp. they got transported to the future, the far, far future, even past 41st millennium, to the point where they see the extinction of humanity. And they translate back into the warp, and they luckily go backwards in time. And it's like, right, okay, so we need to warn humanity about what's going to happen in the future, set course for the nearest human world. The problem was, the nearest human world was an Imperial world. And the entire ship's crew got declared as heretics, and was summarily executed.
Yeah, living metal ship with AI on board, yeah, you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah. So the ship got understandably pissed off, and developed a vendetta against humans, and has this great bit of dialogue with the tech priest referring to him as like, you're nothing more than a witch doctor, with your incense and your oils, look how far your species has devolved. You've become primitive.
And he's not wrong.
And as this is happening, the AI manages to hijack one of the servitors that's with the tech priest and starts speaking to the Space Marines through the servitor. And at the same time, he's managed to hack the Space Marines' Terminator armor and lock them in place. And basically like, right, what you're going to do, you're going to free me from this Hulk, then I'm going to travel to another galaxy to avoid the destruction of this one. It's not going to happen for a few, 1,000 years, but I want to be as far away from it as possible when that happens. And no, I don't have room for passengers. Lol. The exact words, not lol, obviously.
Yeah.
The Space Marines like, no, we will not help an AI, blah, 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 blah. And the AI is like, pity. Makes the servitor fire its multi-mel to just vaporize one of the Terminators. And it's like,
thanks for coming, good night.
Yep, and I'll just do that one by one. Oh, someone's fixed my reactor. Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm going to start shooting my way through the space hole now. Bang, bang, bang. Because, of course, it does. But because the reactor's now fixed up, the main Space Marine fleet is able to contact the Nova Marines and the Blood Drinkers and prepare for a teleport lock. And as this is happening, something smashes through the wall of the ship and starts wrecking shit on all the servitors. It's Cadus. And he has mutated. He has basically started developing bony spurs and horns and claws. Basically, in that scene in Devastation of Bar with the Blood Gorillas, that's basically what he's become now, because he has now fully succumbed to the Red Thirst. And he's wrecking the servitors apart, and he turns and he sees the recluse out from the Blood Drinkers and goes, You knew what Holos did. You knew Holos made a deal with Chaos, and you didn't tell us, you bastard. Come here. But as that happens, Space Marines get teleported away. Cadus is restrained by the ship itself. And as the Space Marines are returning to their ships, Captain Gout of the Nova Marine says, right, all ships open fire on the space or blow it the fuck up. They start opening fire, boom, 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 boom. But as the debris is being smashed away, the ship ends up escaping. It translates into warp, bam, boom, it's gone. Cadus has gone with it. And Gout's like, right, where the hell is the Blood Drinker Reclusiarch? Oh, he's gone as well. He left already. Oh, how convenient. And Plosker's like, yeah, I'm a bit annoyed we didn't get, the entire... I'm a bit annoyed we didn't get the AI, but I got some of the STC data downloaded, so, I got a consolatory prize. Yay me.
Sorry. The Mechanicus guy is annoyed that he didn't get the Herotechnical AI.
Yes, because he was a bit of a heretic himself, essentially.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. And Gout's like, you know what, I should just smack the shit out of you for saying that, but I've got a lot on my plate right now, so fuck off. So, well, you've upheld your end of the bargain, so we're going to repair your ships in your fleet, and we're going to give you a brand new one. Okay? All's good. And we end the story with several centuries, well, about a century or so later, and an Inquisitor arrives on the homeworld of the Nova Marines and goes like, right, I want to see all records pertaining to this event. Right, it doesn't mention anything that I'm looking for. Fuck, I'm going to have to go to the Blood Drinkers' homeworld now. Well, at least it's going to be warm there. The end.
And warm by which means you're going to be put in the oven.
No, by warm means that the Inquisitor was born on a tropical world and the Blood Drinkers' homeworld's volcanic.
No, it's also a pun on you're going to get munched.
Oh, that's right. And the Nova Marines' homeland is basically Scotland.
As in you're going in the oven because they're going to have you for lunch.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, and the Nova Marines' homeworld is basically Scotland.
Oh. Fair enough.
Yeah, basically highlands, lots of lavender fields, lots of craggy rocks, grass, and it's always raining.
Yeah, that sounds like Scotland.
Yeah.
So yes, was it worth the read?
It was worth the
the
read.
long wait?
It was worth the wait. Yeah, I feel it was a good book, all things considered.
Good.
Cool.
So what's next?
Well, the book I'm going to start reading next is Kjalmar's Skull, which was a book that was only available as part of the 40k Imperium subscription service.
So that's one that most people won't have read then.
No, it's by an author I've never read any works by either. It's by a guy called Tom Horth.
The name rings a bell.
I've
but
not
I
read
can't-
any of his works. He hasn't had anything on the Black Library website, so...
Oh, I thought he was an AOS author. Apologies.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, I can check.
Tom Horth, did you say?
Yeah.
Spelt the way you'd expect.
Yeah, Horth.
Yeah. Books by. So I'm just going on Goodreads. I'm just curious. He wrote a lot of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest
Yeah, that was the magazine.
magazines. Well, yeah. I felt like I thought he'd written a AOS thing. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
You might be confusing with someone else, but yeah, both these books, they seem to be interlinked because there was two books. There was Kjalmar's Skull and Bones of the Martyr.
Oh no, he has written some AOS stuff. Sorry, he has.
Oh, has he?
He's written a novella for the Mortal Realms magazine.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he's done a couple. Get out of my way. I think he's done a.
He's done, get out of my way.
Sorry. Yeah, I think he's done a couple of AOS novellas, which is maybe where I've come across the name.
Ah, okay. Fair enough. But yeah, he's done two books for the Imperium service, Bones of the Martyr and Kjalmar's Skull, which appear to be both interlinked because they are both Sororitas versus Necrons, which is which feels like a random ass matchup.
It's Sanctuary 101 all over again.
Yep.
The fact that some people don't actually know what Sanctuary 101 is these days is a deep cut.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Oh well, indeed. What about you, Goombah? Have you got any books on your to-read list?
I've been going back. Yeah. Oh my god, I can talk. I've been going back through and reading or re-listening to some books. I've got mild dyslexia, so reading really thick books can be kind of tough. But I try to listen when I can. So let me throw this out here because it's a little random.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna go off a little Orky just real quick. I promise it's a lot long. People ask me what would be the best orc anything to get into in terms of like books or whatnot. There is an audio drama called Prophets of Wa by Guy Haley. I love Guy Haley. He's done.
I mostly like Guy Haley. There are moments where I'm not sure, but actually, Flesh and Steel was Guy Haley. I should have said.
Yeah, no, I know there are a couple times where Guy Haley's a bit hit and miss, but so far I've not been disappointed, and
it's mainly with his more recent stuff, in fairness, so.
Because I know they write for a lot of...
He wrote the Dawn of Fire novel we were shading on earlier.
Because I know they write for a lot of perspectives, and it's like, yeah, I could understand there'd be a couple of rough patches and rough books, but anyway, it's a very simple premise. It's been an ongoing series. Do you all know about Sanctus Reach?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is after the Orc invasion at Sanctus Reach, and I think it's right after the Maledictum cracks open.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you've got a small group of Evil Sun's boys. You've got Bosgat, Ugrim, Talker, Snick, Gob, and Frick. I love these guys.
Talker's great, yeah.
And it's very, very small in scale, which makes it easy to go into. But the one thing that I really love is that at the beginning of each chapter, they will actually, and I did a video on this, they will give a brief introduction first in actual Orc, and then in like low Gothic, quote unquote. And the whole premise is they're trapped on this planet after the Maledictum cracks and their ship got blown out of the sky, and they're trying to figure out how to survive. One of Boss Ugrim's rivals, brain, please activate. I just listened to this. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Anyway, one of his rivals rolls up and starts mocking him, and he's like, "There's a war is coming. All of my weird boys are singing in the camp. Odd boys are really, really excited. There's a war coming." And Snickgob, who claims to have a sorry, Grimguts just came to me. Grimguts is the antagonist. Sorry. Anyway, Snickgob's like, "No, I've got a bit of weird boy in my head. There's gonna be a war. I can feel a war month off. Nothing's coming." There's a quick little side mission where Bozgat has to go find Talker. Talker is just wandering around the desert because he's a mad boy, and he. The funny thing about him is that he understands the entirety of the Krork psychosphere. He actually channels like remnants of Brain Boy thought. It's hilarious because it always gets downplayed because it's orcs. So they never he'll say the most like weird meta stuff ever, or like calling back to the wars in heaven, and he just gets shut down because the orcs neither know nor care about what he's talking about. Run into some funny grot problems there. That's always fun. Speaking of the Red Grot Revolution. But I think, and this is a bit of spoilers, but the thing that I love the most is that this feels like a D&D campaign, as someone who's played D&D for a long time, because what ends up happening is that there's manipulated Wa energy going on, and the closer that the orcs get to it, as soon as this Wa energy kicks out, they just want to kill each other. They constantly want to kill each other, and they have to shake it off. Talker and Snickgob get close enough to realize, it's a bunch of Mechanicus and Space Marines who have a weird boy in a large contraption. They are fabricating Wa energy to get the orcs to fight each other. And it's like, I don't know how that works. It doesn't matter, but I find that hilarious. And it's like, there's a big climactic battle where they have to destroy this quote-unquote Wa faker using some of the most bizarre orky ingenuity I've ever seen. But it's like, God, I wish there was more of that. I know it's borderline tech heresy, especially if you get the Ordos Zenos involved, but it's like, it's so clever. It's like the manipulation of Wa energy to try and get all the orcs to kill each other, then go in and mop up the rest of them on the planet. It's just like, it's so good.
Welcome to the Beast of Rises series.
Also, if you liked Prophets of the Wa, I don't know if you've read it, but have you read Evil Sun Rising? Because it's the same group of characters. Okay, good.
Yes, I've read all of their books. I'm rereading Evil Sun Rising actually.
I just love that scene. It's like where the girl goes like, "Oh, do you want a cup of tea, boss?" It's like, yeah, I've given you some water because won't give me farts.
And he's just ripping. He's just constantly. I'm just like, wow. All right, cool.
Yeah.
But no, that's something I've been reading. I went back through. I reread Gazgul Thraka, Prophet of War. War Boss, also very good. Big Dakka, good. Iron Devil, very, very good. If you get tired of seeing the orcs as the goofy guys, Iron Devil by C.L. Werner, I believe. It's from a group of like 10 Militarum troops, and they're having to fight a Morkanaut.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a scramble for their lives, and it really does show that, oh no, these orcs are actually terrifying, and they really need to get wiped out of the universe in order for anyone to actually thrive and survive.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I also read I listened to Glorious Doom not too long ago. Loved that. Absolutely adored that. Despite not being a Space Marine fan, there are aspects of them that I love greatly, and one of them is the concept of keeping them around as long as possible. Help me out here. Who is the Space Wolf Dreadnought who's just been around since like Bjorn? It's like, give me more characters like Bjorn. That's so cool.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we should call it here due to the time. We apologise to anyone who left a question last episode. We'll try and get to the next episode instead, so leave a comment below with the word question if you want us to try and answer them. And
Yeah, we also need to make sure we invite you back because we could easily talk another 2 hours.
Absolutely.
I warned you this was going to happen.
Yeah, I'm very jabbery. I apologize.
that's fine.
Don't apologise.
So, thank you very much to everyone who tuned in for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And thank you very much to Gaijin Goombah, aka Gimgam Glitzdakka, for joining us this episode.
Yeah, this was fun. I learned a lot, and that's important.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
This has been me from Tactica Imperialis.
I guess this is me, Gimgam Glitzdakka from Gimgam Glitzdakka.
And we'll see you all again next time. Bye-bye.